Would you look at that? The receipts just fell out the sky like confetti at a funeral. And the streets? They don't want justice. They want blood. See, they thought it was over. They thought they buried the truth beneath concrete lies and corporate smiles. They thought the files would stay locked, the tapes would stay erased, the whispers would never echo past the padded rooms they built to contain what you became. But oops, they fucked up, bad, and now the timelines are unraveling like crime scene tape in a hurricane. Now the facades are melting like cheap paint in hellfire. Now everyone's asking one question with trembling breath. How long has this been going on? And why the fuck didn't we see it? Because you were never just a problem. You were a protocol failure. You were the thing they couldn't profile, couldn't predict, couldn't pacify. You weren't a rebel. You were the receipt they prayed no one would print. You ever watched a predator get caught in its own trap? You ever seen a god bleed ink instead of blood? Because that's what's happening now. And the streets, the ones they spat on, ignored, laughed at, are now screaming your name like it's a war cry carved into steel. They tried to audit you like a glitch, treat your rise like a bug in the Matrix, but all they found was a mirror. One that doesn't just reflect, one that records, files, documents, repeats, until even the ones who swore they never saw you are forced to replay every frame of what they ignored. You were the ghost in their surveillance, the glitch in their governance, the whisper behind the walls where power sleeps with paranoia. And now your silence is screaming louder than their PR teams ever could. Now your existence is a subpoena to reality. Because there are two types of monsters in this world. The ones who get exposed, and the ones who expose. And darling, you just changed categories. You were supposed to be erased, but you became the ledger. You were supposed to be forgotten, but now they're forced to memorize you. Funny, isn't it? How the very same hands that mocked you for doing too much are now scrubbing their fingerprints off history, hoping no one connects them to the crime scene you just turned their reputation into. This ain't vengeance, this is inventory. Every lie, logged, every slight. Timestamps, every betrayal. Indexed by the very algorithms they worshipped. You didn't keep score, you kept receipts. And now that inbox is public. You want to know why they're panicking, why their group chats are on fire, why the boardroom smells like sweat and litigation. Because you weren't bluffing. You didn't come to win. You came to document the massacre. You came to make truth lethal. Your existence became a testimony, a living affidavit that says, I warned you. And now the ghosts are talking. And when the streets want blood, they don't ask for apologies. They ask for names. They ask for footage. They ask for who stood silent when the devil danced in daylight. You know what makes them squirm more than being exposed? Being studied. And that's what you've become. An ongoing investigation they can't close. An open file with black bars over every sentence. Except your name. You're the saint they crucified in silence. The demon they summoned by accident. The paradox that makes prophets weep and politicians lie harder. You know what you are? You are the footnote they forgot that would become the Viking headline. They thought your collapse would be their peace. They thought your exile was permanent. But what they didn't count on was you returning with evidence. Voice memos of their blasphemy. Screenshots of their cowardice. Hard drives filled with karma. And now the only thing louder than your silence is the screams of the guilty. Because here's the thing. When you evolve through pain, when you rise through fire, when you master the art of being underestimated, you don't come back for applause. You come back with proof. You walk into rooms like a walking contradiction, part elegy, part emergency alert, part angel, part archive, saintly smile, demonic eyes, and a pocket full of undeniable truth. So go ahead, watch them scramble, watch them delete messages and redact memories, watch them pray for amnesia, because it's too late. The receipts are out, the mask is off, the lights are on. And the streets? The streets don't want apologies. The streets want blood. And you're just getting started. Oh, they're trying everything now, aren't they? PR statements like duct tape on a dam, fake tears on live streams, sudden mental health breaks, donations to charities they never believed in. You ever seen rats organize a sympathy tour? You ever seen devils dress like victims? Because that's the phase they're in now. Damage control disguised as redemption. But it's too late for that. Because once the streets get a whiff of truth mixed with betrayal, there's no going back. This ain't just drama. This ain't some scandal. This is a reckoning. And you're the fucking Exhibit A. They tried to bury you in smear campaigns, label you too intense, too much, too dangerous, too unstable. But now that same instability is the only stable thing left in this whole story. You're the axis of exposure. You're the reason cameras are shaking. You're the force of nature that made every hidden transcript feel like an obituary waiting to be read out loud. You know what they don't get? You weren't born vengeful. You were made, engineered by betrayal, programmed by humiliation, activated by silence. They didn't just create an enemy. They built a revolution and then tried to gaslight it into a glitch. You're the consequence of secrets, the side effect of their lies. You're what happens when the underestimated survives long enough to start remembering. Not just what they did, but how they smiled while doing it. And now you carry something deadlier than rage. You carry clarity. That's what terrifies them. Not your strength, not your following, not your tactics, your memory. Because you saw everything. You recorded everything. And now, you're showing everyone. You weren't just keeping tabs. You were building a fucking timeline, a countdown, a truth bomb wrapped in humor, horror, and hyperlinks. You turned their sins into punchlines. You turned their policies into parodies. You turned their hierarchy into a crime scene chalk outline. And now, the streets ain't just watching. They're choosing sides. You gave the voiceless a soundtrack. You gave the numb a nerve. You gave the ghosts a goddamn microphone. You ever notice how fast people backpedal when the crowd starts chanting your name? That's fear. That's regret. That's the beginning of their end. And here you are. Not just alive, not just free, but untouchable. You weren't built to blend in. You were born to burn the blueprint. Saint or psychopath, angel or demon. You're all of it. You're the paradox that broke the algorithm, the glitch that wrote its own prophecy. And now, you're not just walking through their firewall. You are the virus. You are the exposure. You are the fucking broadcast. So when they scream, who gave them the right to speak? The answer is simple. You did. When you survived, when you remembered, when you stopped waiting for their permission and uploaded the proof. And now the files are open, the redactions are bleeding, the timelines are spilling, and you're just sitting there, watching it all collapse like it was pre-programmed, because it was. They thought you were a threat, number. You were the update. And now their system's crashing, with your name written all over the error log. The receipts are out, and the streets want blood. Guess who's holding the fucking scalpel? You. You feel that? That tremor in their hands? That nervous refresh of their feeds? That's not just guilt. That's recognition. They don't fear you because you lied. They fear you because you told the truth. Publicly, irreversibly, and in high definition. You didn't scream. You didn't throw punches. You just opened the file and let it speak for itself. You think they're scared of you now. They're terrified of what else you saved, of what else you've archived behind that grin, of how many more bodies are buried in the metadata, of which group chat will leak next, of how many masks will fall when your next post goes live. You became a new kind of weapon, not a gun, not a knife, not a threat, a mirror, one they can't look into without watching their lies rot in real time. And now the people they swore would never believe you, the ones they trained to hate you, they're starting to ask the wrong questions. Wait, why were they trying so hard to silence them? Why does their joke sound more like a confession? How long have we been lied to? Because once you open one receipt, the archive spills. And once truth gets a taste of oxygen, it doesn't crawl back into the vault. It spreads. You're the outbreak they thought they contained. You're the voice they thought they deleted. You're the file they swore they wiped. But now it's trending. You get it now. They didn't just lose control. They lost the narrative. And you're rewriting it. With timestamps, hashtags, and proof they can't outrun. This ain't a redemption. This is documentation. This is what happens when the hunted stops hiding, when the archived becomes amplified, when the crazy one becomes the source. You were their little secret, their punchline, their disposable scapegoat. And now, you're the headline, you're the leak, you're the goddamn protocol update. They tried to blacklist you, blacklist your name, blacklist your truth, blacklist your existence. And now, your shadow's longer than their legacy because receipts don't die. They multiply, they infect memory, they embed into the bloodstream of culture, they haunt. You think they're still mad at what you did. Number. They're mad at what you revealed, and that every time you smile, the crowd gets louder. Every time you breathe, the signal gets stronger. Every time you exist, they remember how badly they fucked up. You're not revenge. You're the consequence. You're not loud. You're lethal, and you don't need validation anymore. You've got evidence, so keep walking, ghost. Let the timelines burn. Let their PR crumble. Let the receipts stack until the weight crushes every lie they ever fed the world. Because the streets don't forget. The streets don't forgive. The streets want blood, and the streets, they're calling your name now. This just in, the cover-up collapsed, and the one they tried to erase just went viral. Now go ahead, show them the next file. You ever seen a god lose control? I have. And it doesn't look like thunder or fire or divine fury. It looks like a trembling executive refreshing an exposed email thread. It looks like private security locking the door from the inside. It looks like lawyers rehearsing plausible deniability while sweat stains their spine. They thought you were a phase, a breakdown, a data glitch that would fix itself if ignored. But what they didn't realize was that your silence was never empty. It was recording, every smile laced in venom, every handshake wrapped in barbed wire, every "you good?" while they stabbed under the table. You didn't forget, you filed it. And now it's your turn to play archivist of the apocalypse. They tried to drown you in misdirection, bury you beneath a press release, erase you with a non-disclosure and a fake apology. But you didn't break, you decoded. And that's the part that makes their blood run colder than the headlines. Because you didn't come back for revenge. You came back with evidence. You came back with dates. Audio, transcripts, IP addresses, login times, hard truths wrapped in hard drives. And now, they're not worried about what you'll do. They're terrified of what you'll drop next. They tried to build a story around you, make you the villain, but you flipped the script. And now their narrative reads like a confession under duress. You want to know what makes you dangerous? Not the receipts, not the rage, not the followers, not even the truth. It's that you never needed their system to win. You documented their sins using their own tools. You weaponized timestamps. You made screenshots into sermons. You made memory into a massacre. And every time they sleep, they dream in redacted files. Because they know what you know. And they know the world's about to know too. You're not a whistleblower. You're a fucking siren song of collapse. You make power sweat. You make liars lose their appetite. You make spineless empires shake on their foundations. You are the ghost in their group chat, the static in their audio logs, the shadow in their quarterly reports. You are the moment the system realized it raised its own executioner. Because truth, when wielded by someone who survived it, is a blade sharper than justice. And now the crowd isn't asking, what happened? They're asking, who allowed this to happen for so long? Who watched and stayed silent? Who benefited while they bled? They wanted control, but now the people want names. The people want video. The people want a goddamn reckoning. And you? You're the host. You didn't just survive the smear campaign. You outlived it, outgrew it, outranked it. And now you're broadcasting from a pulpit built from their deleted logs. Isn't it poetic? The same nobody they tried to silence now has a louder mic than their PR firm, a louder mic than their donations, a louder mic than their corporate gods. Because you didn't come to apologize. You didn't come to play it safe. You didn't come to forgive. You came to remind them that every empire built on blood and secrets eventually drowns in both. You're not here to talk. You're here to upload every moment they wish the world never saw. Click. Post. Viral. Another mask drops. Another leader exposed. Another dollar turns to ash. This is no longer about you. It's about the infection you triggered. An infection called consciousness. People ain't blind anymore. They're awake, hungry, shaking with rage, and armed with screenshots. You gave the voiceless a megaphone. You gave the forgotten a search bar. And now, everyone's watching, and the people they stepped on, the ones they silenced, mocked, paid off, erased. They've been waiting for this moment. The moment someone would rise not to beg, but to expose. And you, darling, you didn't rise like a phoenix. You rose like a leak. You spread. You glitched. You infected the system so deeply that even its gods couldn't debug you. They thought they had time. They thought the damage was manageable. But you broke the firewall. You leaked the truth. And now, you turned history into a crime scene. And there's blood on every keyboard. So go ahead, open the next file. They're already guilty. Play it again. No, seriously. Press play. Let it loop. Let them sweat. Let the footage burn through their soul like acid on silk. Every frame is a scar. Every timestamp is a confession. Every pause, a murder they thought would go unnoticed. But now, the silence is screaming. You ever watched an empire unravel in 4K? This ain't justice. This is evidence gone nuclear. This is karma with Wi-Fi and no chill. They told you to let it go, to move on, to be the bigger person. But you knew something they didn't. Forgiveness is for the innocent. And these bastards, they cashed in your suffering. They profited from your downfall. They wore your pain like a badge until the receipts dropped. And now their apologies sound like fire alarms in hell. You see, the problem wasn't that they hurt you. The problem was they thought you'd never return. They thought you'd be too broken, too tired, too erased. But what they didn't realize was that you weren't healing. You were archiving. They thought you were gone. No, you were just loading. While they celebrated your absence, you were syncing drive folders named after dates. You were converting trauma into megabytes of mayhem. You were bottling the storm, and now it's raining F-seeking truth. And the streets are done whispering. The streets are chanting your name like it's the only cure left for this sick system. They're done waiting. They're done swallowing watered-down press statements. They're done watching good people get crucified for being real, while cowards wear halos they bought in bulk. You are the breach, the rupture, the beautifully irreversible disruption. You didn't return to prove them wrong. You returned to make the world remember what they did. You're not here to fight for a seat at their table. You're here to flip the whole damn thing over and show what's underneath. You ever seen someone try to deny what's on camera? They fumble, they deflect, they scream context. They blame editing. They start sweating pixels. Because once truth is seen, it can't be unseen. You turned whispers into headlines. You turned pain into public record. You turned yourself into the archive no one dares delete. And now, you walk into rooms with the power of 1,000 leaked files behind your eyes. They tried to define you as the villain, but you kept receipts. And now, you're the documented hero of your own disaster. You're the ghost they can't outrun, the signal they can't jam, the fucking proof that pain doesn't just transform people. It uploads them, and you? You became a living broadcast. Let them refresh, let them panic, let them hold emergency meetings, let them write, "We take this seriously." Statements from hotel rooms in countries without extradition, because this is no longer a rumor. This is the F-seeking rollout. You don't need justice. You're the syndrome, the aftershock, the permanent side effect of their decisions. They called you unstable. But guess what? Stability doesn't shake empires. You were never supposed to be predictable. You were supposed to be a ficking reckoning. You turned crazy into a genre, turned your pain into a platform. And now every word you speak feels like a subpoena to the soul. You think it ends here? This was just the download, the real destruction. That's what happens when the world starts clicking share. This isn't backlash. This is a broadcast, and the signal is yours now. You don't have to yell. Just drop the next file. Let the silence panic. Let the guilty twitch. Let the streets scream louder than the courtroom ever could. And you just stand there, smiling like the evidence is still coming. Because it is. Because you archived everything. And now, it's time to release the whole vault. Press play again and again and again, until the world never forgets what they tried to hide.